Cheers. It's nice.
Really wonderful, Zach. Thank you.
Wow, hits the spot. What is this, ice?
Absolute on ice.
Ah. Mmm.
Hello there, everybody.
Yo.
Initiating broadcast number.
What is this?
Question mark?
50. It's got to be like 54 or something, I think. 53.
We're in the 50s.
We're in the 50s.
Back.
And
we're in the 50s and we're back with a crack.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Is that a new?
Back to crack your back with.
I just thought of it.
That's great, man.
That's
I
awesome.
love the debut.
Yeah.
Ice cracks as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ice cracks, which is relevant to the book for this evening. Oh, by the way, everybody.
Oh, how is it relevant?
Because
okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. Tell us.
Well, it's deep. It's a deep thematic and historical point. That's the title of the book.
Nice.
By the way, you're listening to the Spine Crackers podcast with your hosts, me, Gabe, and
Matt.
I'm Paul.
And that's us. So this evening, we're going to be discussing, as already mentioned, Ice, the 1967 novel by British novelist Anna Kavan. Well, that's not that. That's only if you get married, right? Previously, the artist formerly known as Helen Woods / Helen Ferguson.
Yes. Yeah.
I think she only ever published as Helen Ferguson, but the name she was born with is Helen Woods.
Yeah.
And she changed her name kind of like after 2 divorces as like a rebirth Phoenix type situation.
I think she only got divorced once.
No, she got divorced twice.
Okay. So was it after? Okay. So
it was after, I don't know which divorce, but it was after an insane asylum stint, which I think was, probably after the second one.
So, this is Kavan. We'll talk, I'm sure, about her life much more, or at least a little bit more, if not in the Patreon segment, which you can hear if you subscribe to our Patreon to get the full episode, which is usually between 2.5 hours and 3 hours of us going more in depth, popping off, sharing the hot takes that you cannot hear in the paltry 1 hour public episode.
Yeah. Not that it's bad, but
which you're listening to now. Not that it's bad, no. But
this is the Slim Pickens edition.
There's always more to say, as you know. So anyway, I'm sure we'll talk more about Kavan's life as we go along. But this was her final novel. It was published, I think, only a year before she died of heart failure, often misstated as a drug overdose. Now, she was a virtually lifelong heroin addict, but
she was a fan of it. She was a big fan.
Yeah, one could say
an enthusiast, if you will.
Yes.
Imagine being like a heroin connoisseur.
Yeah, going to heroin conventions.
You just inject heroin and you're just like, yeah, it's fucking really good. this one's good too.
I mean, isn't that literally? That's like literally what they do, isn't it?
I know, that's the joke. It's just like, there's no variation except.
Imagine liking heroin.
If there's any heroin-based podcasts out there that want to school us on the details,
Just the quietest podcast imaginable.
They only get like 3 episodes in.
no, they just get like 10 minutes into each episode and then just nod out.
Yeah. I pawned my Yeti microphone already. Yeah.
Oh, James OD'd again.
Yeah. Guys, addiction is not funny.
No, it's not. And there's a lot of resources out there for folks struggling with it.
True. We don't know any of them, but
we're not one of them, and we don't know any of them.
Anyway, Kavan was a big heroin addict. She struggled with drug addiction and mental illness for most of her life. Attempted suicide multiple times. Was in and out of mental what were called at the time asylums. Just generally a very, very interesting writer. So she published most of her early work, which she published when she was married to her first husband, I believe, who's, I forget his first name, but something Ferguson, who, by the way, if I'm reading her biography right, her first husband was her mother's ex.
Something like that, very much older, and potentially like a quote unquote friend of the mom,
lover of her mother.
Yeah.
So off to a great start in life. And
Wow.
if you've listened to our episode on, this is our second episode on Kavan. If you listen to the first one, which is on Sleep Has His House, which is her other probably most well-known work aside from this was far and away her most well-known and commercially successful novel.
Yeah, I don't know what would rank after that. I feel like Machines in the Head gets mentioned a lot,
right, which is a short story collection.
Asylum Piece gets mentioned a lot, so I'm not sure which is next.
But anyway, if you listen to our discussion of that novel, there's a lot in it about her mother, and I would argue there's a lot in this novel about her mother as well. So
she definitely gets a shout out potentially a couple times.
Yeah. So someone who was working through a lot in her writing, I would say, is fair.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yes.
So what's this Gabe book? What's this Gabe about? What's this book about Gabe?
This book is about Gabe.
Yeah. You are Ice. Yeah.
I am Ice. So Sub-Zero. So
Dude, awesome.
yeah. I don't have any good Sub-Zero lines, but I'm sure he has them. And everyone knows Scorpion's line, but
He was the only one that really had.
I guess Sub-Zero doesn't have like a line that he says every time.
What is Scorpion's line? It's like, get
over here.
Get over here.
Get yourself over here. Come on down.
Come on over here.
Why don't you come over here?
So anyway, so this is my pick. So it traditionally falls to me, the picker, to
The picker.
to kind of give a quick plot rundown of the book, why they picked it, etc. So I will proceed to do that right now. I picked it because I wanted to read more Kavan. Simply, we had read her other book, and I enjoyed it a lot. Now I have to just say that looking back over the ratings, the rating I gave that book, which is like a 4.8 plus, is probably the most out of whack with how I feel with a book that we've read previously in terms of a rating. I think that was maybe not the most, but I think it was significantly too high. But whatever, it was my in the moment reaction. You got to honor it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to revisit her work to see what impressions it would leave on me a second go round. And this is the one that's sort of the most popular of hers that maybe some other people have read. And so I thought it would be a good pick for that reason. Now, in terms of what the fucking book is about, search me. Just
be crude and superficial for the moment.
Yeah. So it roughly follows an unnamed narrator. No one in the book has a name, actually. The narrator is unnamed, and it follows his travels in pursuit of an ex-lover or an ex-childhood friend. Again, I'm already floundering because it's so unclear precisely what his relationship is to this woman / young girl.
Which is why the biographical detail we mentioned at the top is important.
Yes.
Lover, friend, old childhood friend, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. And the other biographical detail that we mentioned that's important is that this narrator is deeply troubled mentally. He has some sort of seemingly like undiagnosed and or diagnosed mental illness, and also takes drugs on top of it that aggravate that mental illness and cause hallucinations and breaks with reality, and a whole sort of panoply of very worrying symptoms. And so it's sort of him moving through this world, which is a sort of post-apocalyptic or in the midst of the apocalypse world, that is both perpetually sort of at war with various countries and states kind of moving in the background to undermine one another or create alliances, and also the world is being comparatively quickly engulfed in huge sheets of ice that are constantly just kind of moving across the ocean and like literally just crushing continents, it seems like. And
it's like the never ending story, but it's ice.
Right, the nothing.
The nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's this constant environmental threat that's frustrating his pursuits of this girl who is referred to only as, I think, the glass girl. Is that right?
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes, not always. Sometimes just a girl, sometimes something else, which is, again, adds to the ambiguity and confusion. So his pursuit of her is frustrated both by environmental factors, but also by the only other main character, who is a guy by the name of the Warden, who sort of kidnaps the girl originally, and or she sort of goes with him willingly. It's unclear how they first link up.
Right.
But because he first encounters her and she's married to someone else, and all of a sudden she then kind of just up and leaves the country, and then winds up with the Warden, who is sort of a warlord, I think, of what is arguably kind of characterized as kind of like a fallen Scandinavian empire or something like this. That's kind of how I read it.
Yeah, like you mentioned, like there's an ice age sort of occurring that is reorganizing geography essentially. So yeah, things are also just the world map is also just not the same. Right.
And so basically he's running about the world, getting on ships and traveling through the woods and getting in cars, and it's like a planes, trains, and automobiles of the apocalypse, and like just awful mental states and weird sex fantasies.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's my summary.
Pretty good.
Thanks so much for listening, guys.
That's it.
So what jumped out to you all about this book? What were your first impressions? What seems critical to talk about?
Well, I guess first of all, like the thing that gets discussed, right? Like I got this book out of the sci-fi section of a bookstore.
Right.
So I mean, we could have that, that whole perpetual conversation about certain like genres straying from like the norm of those genres, and then suddenly everyone wants to like relabel the genre or call it literary science fiction or something like that.
AKA just cool and good science fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's my problem.
The implication. Yeah, exactly.
Like this, I don't know if Kavan was the source of this coinage, but the genre of slipstream, which I learned about through just reading about this book, which seems like one of the many cases of like a kind of just cop out like term, like it's a slipstream book, which just means ambiguous and shifting perspectives and just kind of weird and avant-garde.
It's like when people call like anyone like narrating their day like stream of consciousness.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like, okay.
Yeah.
And it's just like it can just be science fiction.
But is it? I don't know if it is. Maybe this is something we should save for the Patreon segment because it might take us far afield. But it's a really interesting question.
Well, I just thought of like everything has every component and like thing that happens in the novel seems to have like multiple layers of meaning, right? Like multiple valences, and I feel like you're supposed to think about them all simultaneously, and as they pile up, they're all kind of valid interpretations to some degree, like where she's led you, but they're like very capacious, like these figures. They're kind of ciphers and like symbols, it seems like a lot to me. So there's like this like a dream logic of her own that she's using pretty heavily. And which is
very similar to
Sleep Has His House, which is literally about just like existing within this unreal dream world. And instantly at the beginning of this book, it's just describing like the fact that there are breaks from reality, and that to say it's an unreliable narrator is like even to go like sort of undersell it.
Yes, I totally agree, because he's unreliable even to himself, right? He has no sort of sense of mooring to the point that it's just who knows. Like, I mean, the way this book like shifts scene to scene is like not. I can't think of another book that works the way this book does internally.
It doesn't really ever allow you to just sit in the moment, like you know what I mean? It's just like constant. Even like within a paragraph, it'll switch to a totally different scene. It's just like full throttle, constantly moving.
Well, there's but yeah, it's constant, and that constant is kind of like a recurrence of the same event of like this guy refinding this girl, right? So there's like this horrible, just eternal recurrence that feels like is just happening now until the end of the world.
Yes, literally.
Right.
Like he'll track her down, and then she'll hop a boat and be off, and they'll have to find a way to go track down where the boat went, or he'll find her in a town, and then the townspeople will ritualistically sacrifice her to an ice dragon like in the ocean. And then he'll find her again, and she'll be kidnapped by the warden again. And like Matt said, it's just variations on the theme.
So one of the first, kind of, to me, most obvious symbolic elements was just this, the glass girl and this man, and like this man in two forms, like the insane, nice, quote unquote, fucking nice guy who's actually a stalker, versus the like warden who's like another aspect, it feels like, of man, like the kind of like highly controlling, like violent and very like physically strong, I don't know, violent aspect of man. And then just the kind of ritualistic violence and suppression of women, essentially, like just that will continue to go on forever. And it's just this like gravitational pull until we destroy ourselves.
I was picturing the
warden in an ice Pangea.
Ice Pangea. I was picturing the warden, and I don't know if this is problematic or not, but I was picturing him as like the villain from Mulan, basically. I don't know if you guys remember who that was.
What was his name?
Mongolian.
He was basically
guy, or?
Supposed to be Genghis Khan, but he
wasn't. Basically. Yeah. I know the warden's supposed to be like a Scandinavian guy, I think, or at least that's kind of how I read him, but like more of like a Viking type, but I don't know.
I could see it.
I didn't really see. I saw more of like a big, like Dolph Lundgren type person, basically in my mind.
I was picturing like Kingpin from the live action Daredevil.
Yeah.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
One sort of question that I have about the warden and these, like you were sort of saying, Matt, the dual, not a duality of man, but you know, because the narrator is also just very bad, like a bad guy. He's like creepy. He's like a creepy stalker, and he has all these very, you know, he has this back and forth with his feelings for the girl, where it's sort of this protector role. I need to save her, but also he's also violent with her, and he also fantasizes about like breaking her hands and stuff, and like has all these very violent sexualized fantasies about her. Go ahead, Paul.
There's just like a deeply rooted psychological, sexual, disgusting ambiguousness, I would say. Like there's a scene where he's like he's at like in a town, and it's like the aftermath of a battle, and he's like going up to all these dead bodies. At one point he tries to like get a sword out of a hilt, and then he gets another sword, but he starts going up to all these like girls that he think could be the girl, and one girl has her neck broken, and it's really gross. He like describes the blood and everything, and there's a line that says like he's sad about her dying, but he wishes that he was the one to do it. Like he's like, I should have done this. Like what the fuck.
Yeah. And the girl herself is described as like the apotheosis of victimhood. Like she's like a born victim, and that's when the mom reference gets dropped, like very directly described as having been taught to be so, and like just sort of abused psychologically and physically to the point of this like this kind of fatalism, or you know, she's just resigned to this. But this is also how,
and yet she keeps trying to escape and run, right?
Yeah, but that all gets subverted. Like, yeah, exactly. Because like that's the description that the male narrator is like putting on her. And then every time he comes around, she's like, fuck off. But then it does get complicated by the end. But that's only if you believe the narrator is telling the truth. So it's again,
you
tough.
don't know if he's lucid or not, or just having a fever ice dream.
Yeah, he just went into a fugue state and imagined his favorite ending.
Well, because the ending of the book is ultimately that they, you know, meet up together and sort of semi-reconcile their differences and embrace and whatever, and the ice is closing in around them, and they get in a car and they're kind of driving, and it's honestly a very cozy description at the end. They're just vibing in this car with the heat on, and like they're just like chilling, driving through this hellscape. But like the final line of the book I thought was just chilling. I
really liked the last paragraph. Basically, it was really good.
So I'll just read that then. Or do you want to read it, Matt? You got it?
Yeah, I got it. Or I got it. No, hold on. One second. Yeah. Okay. Driving the big car through the glacial night, I was almost happy. I did not regret that other world I had longed for and lost. My world was now ending in snow and ice. There was nothing else left. Human life was over. The astronauts oh shit. I fucked it up.
Yeah, that wasn't. I was like, do I have a different book? Did I read the right book?
My bad. I highlighted all this stuff, and I thought that's where it started. Okay, so they're in the car vibing. I drove at great speed as if escaping, pretending we could escape. Although I knew there was no escape from the ice, from the ever-diminishing remnant of time that encapsulated us, I made the most of the minutes. The miles and the minutes flew past. The weight of the gun in my pocket was reassuring. Yeah, that little like detail at the end there too.
Yeah, it's like, is this just a kidnapping, or is this just, you know, another break?
I thought that was a great final line, because it did double down on the ambiguous nature he had towards her. It's just like, yeah, I'm happy, but I might kill her. That's the vibe that I got.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it could be Kavan's own sort of just perspective on human beings, because you know she was herself, I imagine, a pretty depressed and gloomy person, and like it could be that she just sees this as a never-ending cycle until the like fucking, you know, ice age heat death of the universe, that mankind will be this, and there's just this enclosing moment to moment, you know, just sort of, I guess,
zeroing
down until we're dead, and just always this threat of violence right till the very end being our like only our only notion that we're alive, or something like that.
Yeah, you can also read.
It's a warm gun.
You could also read that as like, as him just, if they have reconciled the differences, is that just for protection when suddenly the road, or the world is the road world, you know, or it's
Road
Ice
Rules.
Age the movie.
Real world road rules challenge.
Yeah, exactly. Shout outs to the OGs. Who, that's one of our.
Do you guys think
that's on the
the sequel
Oh,
to
yeah.
this would be The Road or Ice Age, the animated movie?
podcast.
Probably I say I would love to just see Sid the Sloth hanging out afterwards after reading this.
That would be great. Sid the Sloth. Yeah, Sid just finds the glass girl frozen in ice. He's like, "What is this?"
That would be really funny. That would huge prop, because there is going to be a new Ice Age movie. So huge props to if you do that.
Hey, if you're listening, Ice Age people.
Show Anna Kavan's body frozen in a glacier.
So, do you guys think that one of my lingering questions is about the warden and the narrator? Do you think that they're the same person? Because there's all of these weird moments when the narrator is interacting directly with the warden. So there's a few scenes when the narrator arrives in the warden's kind of like town before the warden knows that he's there in search of the girl who the warden is kind of keeping as a, you know, sex slave essentially.
Yeah, in a soundproof room.
Yeah, in a soundproof room. And they have these meetings, and this isn't the only time that it happens, but every time they interact, Kavan makes a point of saying, like, I felt some unspeakable connection to this person. Like we were somehow vibing on the same wavelength in a like really deep way, and could kind of see each other. And it struck me that I wondered if they're not just two aspects of sort of masculinity or something like that, but like actively sort of the same person.
I read it that they were. I mean, I thought that the drug-induced hallucinations were evidence of that. And I think I might be wrong, but I know that there's a moment where I think he's talking to the warden, but there's a few moments in the book where he's just like, in this moment, I thought that we were the same person, or I was him, or like I was wearing his clothes and he was wearing mine. And
yeah, there's a full
flash.
like mental body swap at one point.
They they kind of like they collapse into one another. Like they're like trying to fight. Every time they try and actually fight with each other and like physically touch each other, it seems like they kind of merge. Like that's how it's described, right? Like,
yeah,
they like disappear into one another.
It's sort of like the movie Fight Club with Tyler Durden.
It kind of is, right?
Yeah.
There's like the Chad strong guy, and then there's like the Weasley like stalker nerd.
True.
And if they're the same, you know. I think also like part of what's so tricky, right, is that like that is one valid answer. I think. I feel like you can't just like collapse the waveform like they do as like individuals. Like I feel like one of the intentions was genuinely for these things to all validly coexist as like answers to the question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, I think that that's something that Kavan just performs in the writing of the novel, is that there's no privileged reality, as it were, right? All of these various scenes and the narrator's hallucinations or moments where he's in reality, like none of them is clearly the real one, to the exclusion of the others, right? And so I think that point, like just narratively and thematically, of all of these various interpretations and realities existing with relative equanimity to one another, I think that that's something that she, imbues into the writing itself as well.
Yeah, and it adds to like the dreamlike nature of the writing as well. I would say is, I don't know, but like you can like believe multiple realities when you're dreaming out. At least I do. Like, you know what I mean?
I know it's kind of cliched when you're talking about dreams, but I did think of Lynch a little bit, especially like Mulholland Drive with the kind of like alternative, the two alternative reality kind of like women in that. But like, but in to distinguish between them, like I think Lynch is like he's got his like whatever dream logic that he implies, and he speaks no further on it. But I think he has a very like structured idea of what's going on, and I don't know if that's true for this book or for, you know, I don't know about Kavan's work in general, but like this one seemed very much to be kind of airy. I mean, the subject matter is fucking heavy, but like to again, yeah, be this unreal thing in which you can imbue multiple meanings, and that's all that she wants that.
Yeah, I think that that's probably right. I mean, I would be surprised to learn that there was like a intentional, obviously, you know, it's intentional, but like that same thing, like that there's a Lynchian kind of like overarching structure to the whole thing. I don't think that that's the case here.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know.
I guess not.
Because like there's also the temptation, right, with Kavan's biography
to run parallels between like her life, like she's the glass girl, and the narrator is like the stepfather or whatever,
like she's got the two failed marriages, and it's like these two men represent these different sides, and like this perpetual victimhood, which I based on Sleep Has His House and this, like she has a sense of that being her. And I mean, like also the fact that Anna Kavan, the name is, I mean, Kavan herself like had a legal name change to a fictional character in another book that she wrote. Like right. she herself is like a character, you know what I mean? So yep. Like there is this like larger, almost like performance piece going on. Like,
right. Well, and yeah. I think that it was significant that the character change, or the name change, and the character that she chose to, you know, rename herself after was from one of the books that she wrote kind of in her, you know, ordinary literature period. I haven't read any of the books from that period that she published as Helen Ferguson, but like by all accounts that I've read, they're much more kind of, you know, marriage dramas and sort of like the you know, Thoreauvian quiet desperation of the British, you know, middle class, right. And so on and so forth, which sounds great. I mean, they might be, I'm sure they're very good, but I haven't read any. So, and I think to pick one of those characters to name herself after, clearly there's some weight there.
Yeah, because the other thing was too, like, again, because of this multiplicity that you can, it's like the agent could also be the fucking Kavan potentially, and like people talk about how like it's a drug addiction metaphor story for like chasing this thing that is will be your destruction and all that.
I didn't really I actually read a review before reading the book that was like equating drug addiction or addiction in general to the book, and I was like, that idea was in my head the whole time reading it, but the more I read on, I was like, it seems like a loose metaphor to me. It just seemed, I don't know what you guys thought about that, but I was just like, I think what she's trying to say is a little bit deeper than that. And especially after knowing her biography, it's just like, I don't think you can say like the girl being chased is just a drug to the guy. I just don't, it seems like too easy or too simple.
I think like with everything we've been sort of saying, there's a number of ways to read it as a metaphor for Kavan's life, and for drugs maybe specifically. There's okay, so yeah, in one sense, the guy is sort of like creepily like chasing this high of the glass girl, which could be heroin. But then there's another way to read it where, you know, the narrator is somehow Kavan, who is chasing some idealized version of herself and keeps getting blocked by these like unstoppable forces of the ice and the warden. And so maybe those things are the heroine that's sort of stopping her from, you know, becoming the self she wants to be. And also I think maybe that is supported, who knows, but the feeling, the ambiguity of the narrator's feelings for the glass girl between sort of like love and care and also violence and just like wanting to kill her could also be a way that Kavan thought about herself in some ways, which, you know, she did because she attempted suicide like mad times.
Yeah, I think this there, to say it's one thing is like, again, to reiterate, like it's iterations of stuff. It's like you add the layers and the layers, like to just say it's a metaphor addiction is literally reductive, but also one of the things probably, because like the main character is also doing crazier shit in a more dangerous environment in order to like get something that's ultimately disappointing until the embracing of just destruction. And then I think that's also part of the gun being on him, and he's just, yeah, he's over. He's finally he's just elected to obliterate himself. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think one of my maybe dumb simpler takes that isn't extremely dumb, but I don't know if you guys have these kind of dreams, but when I tend to have sexual dreams, I never get to the thing. You know what I mean? It's like it's always a dream where it's like about to happen.
You don't nocturnally emit ever? You've never done that?
Maybe when I was like younger.
You can
You know
have
what I mean?
sex dreams without that.
I'm just saying it's never happened. I know that that's true.
No, it has happened, but I'm saying like
No, he's saying he never actually has sex in the dreams.
Right.
yeah,
It's
it's
always
like
like, yeah,
it's
yeah.
always like an anxious moment where I like get into
Can't-
the room, but then like someone else is in the room and I can't do it, and then the girl leaves, and I like it. So I just kind of had like
Sounds like you should you should go talk to somebody about that, Paul.
maybe I should. I don't know. I'm just like
Can't
I'm one
relate.
person
Can't relate. I'd be fucking in my dreams.
Oh, okay, well, lucky you. It's always just like it doesn't happen, and I get frustrated in my dream.
Paging Dr. Freud. Paging Dr. Freud.
If you listen to the Patreon, I will spill my first sex dream ever, which was interesting and fun.
I've had the experience of like the people being non-determined, like they morph,
Mhm.
Mm.
which feels akin or apropos to this book.
Yeah. Yes, I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
well, I also just think like in general, like the views of, I mean, you know who we have to shut out on this one.
What's that?
Sex and death, baby. Sex and death.
Clifford, get on the fucking shit, man. Get on the show, dude, someday.
Come on, you know you want to, Cliffy.
You want to.
Yeah. But
Have a real talk.
But anyway, you know, I think that Kavan is talking a lot about kind of that relationship, you know, between those two things in the thinking of the narrator about the girl, and that both of those things, his urge to kind of sexually, you know, or romantically or in a protector way, kind of own the girl continually are frustrated, as are his sort of violent urges. You know, that passage you cited earlier, Paul, I think is really important, where he's like, it should have been me. Like, I should have been the one to fucking do this awful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll just like close his eyes and like see her bruised face and be like, yeah, you know.
Yeah, right.
Really
it's really creepy.
Yeah, and there's like I think there's even like an implied rape scene too towards the end, right? I'm not sure if it.
Oh, definitely, a couple times.
Yeah.
Couple times.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah,
the thing about, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say yeah, it doesn't really matter, but there's rape.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Well, and I think that one of the things with those scenes in this book.
Stunning and brave.
Oh, come on. We're not doing South Park references on this show. No, you can't. Just kidding. You can. But the scenes of sexual violence in this book, I wouldn't say they're particularly explicit, but they're very disturbing.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And I feel like that's a distinction that matters somehow.
Yeah, definitely. Like that soundproof room is one of the scenes where that occurs, and it's just they're in like a old barrack / castle, and it's just there's a fucking soundproof room, like absolute like murderer psycho shit, and like yeah, like everything about that initial encounter with the warden was like very, very weird. He just has a dungeon basically.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But then yeah, like the narrator does it too. Do you think there's a positive? Do you think that like the ending was like a somewhat positive glimmer of what could be an alternative, or is it still as dark as the rest of the book?
I feel like this book is among the most relentlessly bleak books that I've read in a long time. So I didn't get a sense of positivity from the ending. I mean, it's this cozy scene in the car, but it's both externally threatened by just the apocalypse,
Right.
and also just internally threatened by the mental life of the narrator. And the fact that it ends with that line about the gun, to me, is just so ominous.
Yeah, that's the last line. It really does just carry a lot of the weight there.
Yeah, and I think it's like a common anxious, doomy thought to have, like, as soon as you reach a level of contentness, there's gonna be a massive fallout and everything's gonna fall apart. So I kind of saw that as the ending, like maybe they're finally content, happy a little bit, but as soon as that happens, the looming threat is instantly going to get you, and it's way worse than everything that's happened before.
It's a very, like, if there is
Woo!
like, yeah,
Woo!
I would say, like, if there is hope or whatever, it's or contentment, like Paul was saying, it's of a very fatalistic variety, where it's sort of, you know, surrendering to the inevitability of violence and death and the cold.
Yeah, I guess it also seems like my other read was that, like, right, because like the guy has a minor epiphany, not epiphany, but a minor revelation when he finally, like, listens to the glass girl talk, like, at all.
True.
I mean, it's about him and it flatters him. So again, like, there's some suspicion thrown on the ending as being a kind of just another, like, idealized delusion from a madman, but also, like, he does get told something he doesn't like to hear and makes the tiniest iota of personal progress, right? Like,
Yeah.
where it's just like, because like Paul, you were saying, like, they just get stuck in this cycle of desire. The guy gets stuck in the cycle of, like, desiring this woman, facing the reality of largely agency and independence, I would say, and then being like, fuck that, I need to keep pursuing and, like, be doing war stuff, and, like, I'm a guy. And then eventually he gets a tiny taste of, like, maybe that's not entirely the situation, and entirely the all-consuming way I need to, like, lead my life to eternity is just, like, on repeat, skipping record style. But of course, even then, that minute amount of progress for the man specifically is then blotted out by the destruction of the planet.
Right.
He runs. Yeah.
I mean, I think
So
that
too little,
he was never gonna
too
have
late.
enough time to figure it out.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
I think on the military point, and maybe we should, on the, like, war, like, man guy stuff, I think we probably should save this for the Patreon, but there's a long section of this book where the guy gets embroiled in revolutionary, like, resistance politics, and is working with these like guerrilla organizations in the woods to, like, transmit samizdat messages. I think the sort of question of, like, global politics and politics in general in this book is, like, so interesting, and you know, Kavan's view of mankind, which we've sort of been hinting at. I mean, there's a line that I highlighted about this. I forget the exact context of this. He's just, I think the narrator is just kind of, like, meditating on the ice consuming the world and the way it links up with kind of war and the military and whatnot. This is on 164 in my edition. Oh, can we just pause for a minute? By the way, shout out to Penguin Classics for the worst fucking cover for this book ever. This cover is so bad.
Yeah, we're not reading Narnia, dude.
Yeah, this literally looks.
Can
like,
you actually look to see who made that cover?
I don't want to. I don't want to.
We're not going to be.
Anyone
If you
by
know,
name.
we already said the type, I guess.
Well,
you know?
they're probably fucking so famous. Who gives a shit?
No, I don't think so. But anyway,
I can't tell if I like this or not.
Yours is like, okay, so Matt's is the green triangle with, what is that? A fucking
The Peter Owen cased classics, and there's a shard of kind of ice, and then there's, like, a hand, and then if you open up the inner flap, there's, like, a painting of, like,
that's way better than this, dude.
I think it's kind of sick.
This is like Narnia Frozen.
Ice Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Just
Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
yeah.
Meta Pixie Dream Girl. Olaf is her friend. Yeah, like
I really did not like this cover. Anyway, so the passage.
Can you type who the artist is in the chat?
Well, okay.
For me.
Yeah, I'll tell you later.
Sorry, listeners. I want to know. I can't find it on the internet.
The day got colder as it went on. The sky darkened. Rising beyond the mountains behind me, ominous masses of black cloud were converging upon the sea. I watched these clouds, understood their meaning, felt the intensifying cold with increasing dread. I knew it meant only one thing: the glaciers were closing in. Instead of my world, there would soon be only ice, snow, stillness, death. No more violence, no war, no victims. Nothing but frozen silence, absence of life. The ultimate achievement of mankind would be not just self-destruction, but the destruction of all life, the transformation of a living world into a dead planet. And I think the relationship there between, I think it's like not irrelevant that she mentions no victims there, because victimhood is such a central theme to this book.
right.
Being a victim of other people, being a victim of circumstance, being a victim of your own mind. And I feel like this sort of, and I also wonder about the thematic significance of it being ice, that everything will be kind of like, not just killed, but frozen in place.
Yeah. I was also just thinking about how, you know, like in light of, because this is an ecological, climatological disaster that's occurring. And like, I do think it's just interesting for the basic bare fact that it's just a freeze over instead of warming. Like that alone kind of just inversion just makes it a little strange and surreal as well. Like you never think about a second ice age or something. It's always like deglaciation and flooding and all this kind of shit.
Well,
A simple
also
point,
the ice seems to even take on like like the surrealist element. I thought too is like she describes it as being a battalion of ice sometimes as well, like almost like it's like a conscious force. It's not just a weather pattern that's destroying the earth. Is like some sort of intelligence behind it.
Yeah, but it's like a mineral intelligence almost. Like it's marching forward, and it's also described as having like internal fire because like the sunshine goes through it and it's like rainbow colors and stuff. It's like it kind of sounds beautiful.
Yeah, some of her descriptions are really beautiful of the ice and the snow and the kind of landscape.
Oh yeah, I mean,
just want to shout out writing wise.
Yeah, I want to read some more passages when we get to the Patreon, but yeah, her writing was like phenomenal.
But I think the ice probably just my dumb intuition was just that it's the opposite of life. Something hot, you know, something giving off heat is a sign of, you know, cellular activity and just sort of molecular activity and all this kind of stuff. And we're stopping that. Like,
right. And I guess I was just thinking, you know, with respect to the narrator's mental state, the ice seems significant because, and this is why you said this way back, Matt, early on, that he's trying to like find the ending he wants and kind of like he's like replaying the ending of a RPG a bunch of times to get the best ending.
Right. He's like, my dialogue tree is going to be so different. And then I want to be frozen. You're saying you want to be like frozen in that moment.
Yeah, exactly. Like he wants to find the ending that he wants and then let the ice freeze him into place, into that moment that he's sort of, you know, crafted after experimentation. And I think that would be sort of a release for him psychologically.
It's like the Pompeii guy that was jacking off when he got covered in molten magma.
Epic legend.
Absolute best way to go.
Legend. Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Well, so we're rapidly approaching the hour here, which is our artificial cutoff for the public version of the episode. As always, there's a lot more to talk about. I want to talk about why the fuck Anna Kavan wrote this book from a male's perspective, her understanding of gender. I think there's a lot more with some of the stuff about global politics and these weird political digressions the narrator goes on. So we're in this one. We're in this one for the long haul. Hopefully you are too. If you want to be and you're not, patreon.com/spinecrackers for as little as 2 frogs a month. You can get
why
frogs.
You can get access to the full episodes, our full uncut discussion, as well as bonus content and our very fun and cool Discord populated by epic legends.
Just epic bacon cheeseburger. Absolutely.
No. Not epic
Legends.
bacon people. No.
Chivon kind of types.
No, damn it. They're going to be so mad. They're going to be so mad when they hear this.
Yeah, dude. You guys rock.
Anyway, so
The spine cord, which is a new label we've.
No, it's spinal cord.
Spinal cord. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Didn't even do it right. Spinal
Okay,
cord.
so first question I have is, do you guys have a word? I do.
Oh fuck. No, I don't.
This was tough for me because I know so many words. No. No, I just didn't find one that stuck out. I also kind of binged the last half of this. So why don't you go first, Gabe?
Okay,
And Paul
apparently
doesn't have one.
Everyone
I got
knows.
one.
Everyone
I got
knows the
one.
word. Okay, let's.
Sick.
So apparently Matt knew every word in this book. So Matt, what does ostrakhan mean?
Yeah. It's when
Gotcha.
it's when ostrich fans meet at a convention center.
No, I'll even spell
Okay.
it.
Ostrich.
All right, I'll even spell it for you and give you one more chance. A-S-T-R.
No, don't. That's embarrassing.
A-S-T-R-K-H-A-N.
ASTRAH.
K-H-A-N. It is the dark curly fleece of young Karakul lambs from Central Asia.
Central Asia. Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good. I don't know how I missed that one.
So that's my word. If these ding dongs don't have one.
I do have a word. I just
All right.
found it.
What
It's
is it?
volcano. I know what it means, but I think it'd be a good Scrabble word. There's a V
It
in
would be a
there.
good Scrabble word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both are valid.
I don't think you can. It's too long to just have that on your whatever.
No, it's exactly the right amount. It's 7 letters.
Oh, is it really? So
Yeah.
perfect. Perfect
Wow.
word. Volcano.
And you could get the bonus points if you just do it in one.
Yep.
Mine was
Really-
mine was Loden. I just didn't know. I'd heard it a million times. It's just one of those things. Bad with fabrics. But
Is
it's just
that another fabric word?
yeah. So it's Loden.
Hmm.
She wears a Loden coat the whole time, and it's
Oh,
just
right.
a thick waterproof woolen cloth.
That's a
dark
good
green.
one.
Yeah, often a dark green color
Look at that.
of
Did you know that
Tyrolean
word
origin.
already though, and you just picked it?
No, because I didn't literally know what the definition was. Shut up, dude.
Paul's calling a critique.
Coming after me.
I'm just coming after you because you won trivia twice the other day, and
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
I'm
need to prove
salty
myself.
still.
Yeah,
I don't need to prove myself any longer.
That was BS.
I was pissed. I was mad.
Let's fight on the Patreon.
Anyway.
You're a wizard, Harry.
I'll tell you right now, if Harry Potter was in this, he would have zapped the dragon and she would have never gotten sacrificed.
What would be a good spell for the dragon, Paul?
In this book,
Yeah, you just.
How
I guess you just
how about-
Avada Kedavra it, right?
how about
Yeah.
Ice Spelliarmus?
That's good. That's
Okay.
I can't believe you
Okay.
didn't save that for behind the paywall.
Wow, nice, good work. Well, so I think there's 3 characters. So anyway, for new listeners, this is the segment called "We Literally Just Read Another Book,"
Yeah.
which means that we can talk about Harry Potter because we've done our due diligence as good, intelligent readers.
We ate our
Now we can
broccoli.
get to what we
Yeah,
really want to talk
that's
to, which
right.
is Harry Potter.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's the whole point of
Always.
this whole friggin' podcast.
The text of my whole life.
Yeah.
And we put all the main characters from the book we just read into their respective Harry Potter houses. So let's begin. The Warden.
So they're at
Slytherin Death Eater.
Voldemort.
He's Voldemort.
Voldemort. yeah. It's an easy clap Slytherin. He's ambitious. He winds up getting deeply involved in global politics as like a
Mhm.
strategic ally for some of the big countries, which we'll
Yeah.
talk about. We'll talk about more after the jump. But yeah, easy Slytherin, I think.
Who next?
The glass girl.
The Glass Girl. I don't know. It's hard because she like barely has any lines of dialogue for the most part, and she just seems to be a character that's like an avatar for the main character. She's just a character that's being chased
True.
and beaten.
She seems like a
Uh,
Patronus.
That's good.
That's actually pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm
So
going with
she's-
Patronus. too.
She's the Patronus for the narrator, but she doesn't protect him. He wants to protect her.
But he wants to kill her too.
Yeah, but no one wants to kill their Patronus.
That's true.
Well, I didn't say it was perfect.
Yeah,
No, I don't
definitely-
know.
She's definitely not a Hufflepuff because she'd be trying to get away from everyone.
Yeah, she's really.
I feel like she's strong. She's just like
She might be Gryffindor. She desperately wants it. Like if the Sorting Hat was put on her head, she would be like, "Please Gryffindor, please Gryffindor, please Gryffindor."
yeah, I think you're right.
right.
because
And
she
the Sorting Hat would.
she's trying to be really strong, and she's wants to be independent, and she gets jobs sometimes in some of these towns where she winds up.
Including one where she's potentially dancing.
Yeah, I was like, you tell her she, yeah, was she being coded as a stripper?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think so.
Like at a cabaret or something.
Yeah.
I feel like that's Gryffindor too.
All right. Yeah, I think I would say Gryffindor.
Yeah.
too.
Traumatized Gryffindor. Like Harry.
Yeah, like Harry. All right. Well, then that leaves us with the narrator.
Slytherin.
Insane Gryffindor.
Insane Gryffindor. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Why?
Because he's bad and
He is bad.
he's got a fixation, but he's definitely brave in a way. If this stuff isn't just a delusion and the world is actually fine, then he's pretty brave in a way, right? Like he's willing
Yeah,
to
true.
do what he regards
does.
derangedly as
He does.
heroic acts.
He does some crazy shit in this book.
Yeah, he kind of Jason Bournes his way through some shit and like
Legit.
So- it's just for a deluded cause that's bad.
Paul, why were you so quick with the Slytherin?
I mean, I just feel like he's going after a singular idea that's his own. It's just like he's trying to do his thing. He's also, I would say he's ambitiously taking this task upon himself. And I think like Slytherins are also brave in moments, they can be brave. It's not, I feel like bravery isn't one of his main defining qualities, but it's an aspect of him.
Interesting.
I just find what
I was just gonna say, it's an interesting philosophical question. If you do something that we would otherwise consider brave because you're like mentally ill, is it bravery anymore?
Yeah, that was my pause too on
Yeah.
that characterization. But I
Yeah.
think so, because he's not unafraid.
True.
yeah, but
Yeah,
maybe
he can-
because
he can
he's hopped
feel
up
fear.
on methamphetamine
Or heroin.
or heroin.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not really fighting a lot with heroin though.
True.
But
Or
I
if
mean,
you are, it's pathetic.
but we don't know. I mean, Anna Kavan took heroin, but I feel like this guy took meth.
I read somewhere this is a very
Yeah.
this is a very weird historical detail but I read somewhere or heard somewhere that her initial encounter with heroin was she was someone recommended that she take it so she could get better at tennis. And I'm like, that seems like the worst drug to become good at tennis by taking.
I guess
Yeah.
that was still around that time. I always thought I always forget when that shit finally was officially illegal. And I guess
Because she first was given it by like some like race car drivers in Monaco or something, or one of these
They took
I know, that's
They
what I'm
took
saying.
heroin?
All these like high level athletes were just on heroin apparently.
that's
they must
insane.
not have been like doing. It seems like they couldn't just be injecting. I don't know. It seems insane to like do any athletic pursuit.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's like
And maybe they were
kind of
just
like
smoking.
opiates.
Yeah.
Like opiate
we don't
style for
know.
like pain.
Maybe we don't know the history of heroin. Maybe it was different back then or something.
Yeah.
A little more
Anyway.
stimulative.
Anyway, I'm gonna go
Yes.
with Dark Gryffindor for the narrator
Nice.
as well.
Okay, fine.
So it's fine.
That's us, folks.
That's us. And now
That's just our 2 cents. Take it or leave it.
and we can take your 2 bones and 2 for the Patreon. Now,
Just
what
2 ice
score?
cubes a month.
What score do we give this book? I get to go
Who's
Who's
last.
not first? Who was first? Who,
Matt.
who
Matt,
did-
Matt said dibs not first.
Yeah.
Geez, I feel like I said it first.
You didn't.
Okay.
I thought at first too.
No, you didn't. I thought of it.
Paul was
I
thinking
really-
about
I
it.
really
Paul was
like
thinking
this
about it an
book.
hour ago.
Yeah, I was. I really enjoyed this book. I don't know. I find that Anna Kavan just to be like an amazing writer first and foremost. Like, we didn't really get into too many of the passages, but I just feel like she paints a fucking picture with her writing. It's like very clear and just evocative and just like brilliant. So that goes a long way for me. I do like the ambiguous nature of the storytelling and the fast-paced nature of it too. I feel like this is a book that I would reread in the future as well, because I feel like I would just get potentially a totally different reaction from it. So I think my score is going to be fairly boosted. I think I'm going to give it a 3.99679.
Okay. It's a valid score.
69.
Okay.
679.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I
gonna
wanna-
be a
basically a four.
I want to know what the 7 is.
3.69420. Yeah.
I just thought of the movie Lucky Number 11 in that moment.
Yeah,
That's what
Josh Hartnett.
Josh Hartnett.
Shout out.
Yeah, I liked this book. I liked this book more than I like Sleep Has His House. I didn't really like that one. That one had a kind of like feverish, super like imagistic, surreal, like royal as an ROIL, like kind of, going on that like I find just kind of like benumbs me as a reader. It's like trying too much. This one, to like fit its title, was just, it was very like spare, and it felt like an insane skipping record. And the image of the ice did start to like induce dread in a lot of the interesting ways. And while it's more, this is definitely a book that I think is like more, and I haven't sat with it for that long, but it's more interesting to think about than to read. It's more interesting to like for me anyway. It's more interesting to like meditate on this stuff, and the images sit with you, even though it's not exactly gripping in the moment. But yeah, I like this book.
Paul
What?
disagrees, and we're going to talk about it on the Patreon.
Yeah.
Right. This is the perpetual prose style battle that we have. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 3.6.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah, I think so for me, I like I said, I gave Sleep Has His House a very, very high score. That was early on in the podcast. We've calibrated our score giving a little bit more since then. I want to reread that book, and I want to reread this book as well, because like Paul said, I think it's the kind of thing where you're going to get a different experience every time based on your own like emotional state and how you like. I read this book in an airport and then on an airplane, like that and back and forth, and that was like how I read it. And it was weird because I was in a weird space, and airports are weird, and so it
Liminal
was weird.
spaces, dude.
Yeah,
Liminal space
legit. Yeah, liminal zones. And so I felt that, and those images of the ice and these weird hallucinatory sequences.
It's also cold right now where we live, and there is ice everywhere.
True.
Just also.
True.
Yeah. And it's bad. Ice is bad. Winter's bad. We'll get into that in the Patreon.
Yeah. So there's a quote here, a little blurb on the back of the Penguin edition, from J.G. Ballard, actually, and it says, "Few contemporary novelists could match the intensity of her vision," and I just feel like Kavan's voice is just like sui generis. Like I can't think of any other book that I could even like profitably put into conversation with this novel or Sleep Has His House. Like she was on some different shit with her,
which was
writing,
heroin. Yeah.
which was heroin. Yeah. And I just feel like it translated into her writing so well. And I feel like this novel is like one of the better just like phenomenological depictions of mental illness that I've ever encountered, in terms of like what it might subjectively feel like. Obviously I have no idea, I can't, whatever, I don't mean to speak for anybody or out of turn or anything, but it felt very grounded in experience and real. And I just feel like she's one of the, like, okay, I'll say this. I'm not someone who's like, I need to read everything an author ever wrote to get them. I don't like that philosophy. I think it's kind of goofy. Whatever. I feel like I want to read, because she feels to be engaged in a project of transcribing her own mind in a way that was like, that's unique. So anyway, I liked it. I liked it a lot. My score for this book is going to be lower than my score for Sleep Has His House, but I think I like this book more. So calibrate and adjust my score ratings as you will. It's it's like a 3.87 for me.
Right. So you want to just give your new Sleep Has His House score?
Yeah.
No, because I kind of want to read it again, but I will. I think the Sleep Has His House would be like a 3.65 now. I gave it like a 4.8, which was bonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something was going on, so I don't know. Maybe it was.
Who knows? Maybe it was.
We were really hyped on that book because I think I had a really high score for it too.
Yeah.
But that was early on.
Who knows? Maybe if I reread it, I would still love it. But
I didn't like it. It was it's a woman writer too emotional.
That's why you like this one, because you tamped it down. It's cold and distant.
It's chilly. Yeah, cold and distant. Yeah.
There it is.
I can't believe you, Matt.
Canceled.
Whoops.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for listening. And again, if you want the full discussion, which is going to be long, one probably, you can subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/finecrackers, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever.
MySpace. No.
Ice space.
Oh. I wanted to make a Mr. Freeze joke, but it didn't really come into play. Maybe on the Patreon.
There's plenty of time.
Yeah, well, you'll find your pocket, and I know you'll be like an absolute sniper with it at that moment.
All right, everyone. Thanks a bunch.
Love you. Bye.
Bye. Love you.
Okay. I'm still recording. Everyone mute.
We'll just mute.